It's really good to have you all here. Do I hear a motion to start the meeting? Anyone?
Motion to start the meeting.
Anthony, you can't because you're not a voting member. But it's
My
okay.
bad.
I motion.
Okay, awesome, Lauren. Do I hear a second?
I second.
I second.
Awesome. All's in favor, say aye.
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 Awesome. All opposed, say nay. Perfect. Meeting is called to order. So now I will quickly just do attendance, make sure everyone's here. So when I call your name, just say here. Alex Skeldon.
Here.
Alyssa.
Here.
Lauren.
Here.
Megan. Thank God. She is not here. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Nick Fleary.
Here.
Summer.
Here.
Uma.
Here.
Yana.
Here.
I'm here. Anthony. Anthony is here. Yep. Emanuela. She's here. Maggie.
Here.
Jenna.
Here.
William.
Here.
Amelia.
Here.
Ali.
Here.
And Thomas.
Here.
Awesome. Everyone's here except Megan. So, Anthony, do you want to go over the minutes?
Yeah, of course. So if I take a look here. So essentially last meeting, we didn't invite any specific members from any organization within the town, but we did have some liaison presentations. We had Yana Herzog on the Human Rights Commission, where we had our whole discussion about the symbolism representation of the warrior logo. And we had a very nice deep dive discussion into that, which has led us to why we're having a presentation from them today. Ali gave a great presentation on the Conservation Commission, very informative, gave just a nice idea of how the town goes through certain projects that are near wetlands or habitats that are endangered. And Emanuela also gave her a presentation on the Wakefield Housing Authority and how that process sort of works within Wakefield, which is a very, I think, integral and unique part of Wakefield compared to many other towns. And we also, just briefly at the beginning of last meeting, had some communication updates from the subcommittee that I'm part of. So I actually get to have a few more updates from them just briefly today as well. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Do I hear a motion to accept the minutes?
I motion to accept the minutes.
Do I hear a second?
I second it.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Passed unanimously. Before we move on, I'm just going to propose a quick amendment to the agenda to include an update from liaison positions. Do I hear a second for that amendment? Someone second that.
Second.
Awesome. All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Perfect, passed unanimously. So we're going to do that. We're going to use that amendment after Anthony's presentation about the outreach. Okay. Okay, so is there anyone from the public here who has any comments? I don't see anyone. Anyone? Last couple public comments. Okay, awesome. I don't think our presenter is here yet, right? No. Okay, so we are gonna quickly, if Lauren wants to talk about a logo design that you want to talk about.
Hi, everyone. So I was thinking we could have someone maybe think about designing a logo. Alyssa and I are running the social medias, and I think it would be really cool to have a profile picture that can be customized to the youth council instead of just like right now we're using like the Town of Wakefield logo, which is fine for now, but it might be cool to have something more specific to us. And then Jack and Anthony and I had briefly talked about possibly making shirts. And so if we were to do that, I think it would be pretty cool to have a logo on that. So if anyone wants to like think about designing one, you can maybe email it to me or Jack or Catherine or Anthony, and we can maybe vote on it and figure out the next step for that.
Yeah, they don't have any ideas about that. Same with go with graphic design. No. Anyone?
The other thing too is utilizing your people that you guys know that are good at graphic design. So you might have some friends that are good at that, but some things too because I've worked with graphic designers before, you kind of want to say this, give them some direction too. If it's not you, you might want it to be kind of a play on the Town of Wakefield logo too, or incorporate it somehow. But those are just some suggestions, but I'm excited.
Yes.
Great
really
job
excited.
on getting the social media up. And communication team, are you guys going to give a little more of an update of what you've been up to?
Yeah, we sort of, that's, we're going to give just a small update on what's going on with our 3 sort of branch.
Okay,
space.
that's later on. Okay.
Yep, that's after the outreach people. Okay, so our guest speaker, Benny, is here. We're really thankful for her to be here. So, Benny, if you want to give just say your name, pronouns, and talk about what the HRC is doing about the mascot.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me. My name is Benny Wheat. I go by she, her, hers. I'm on the Human Rights Commission for Wakefield. So it's one of the other town appointed bodies. And the Human Rights Commission has been sort of a little bit chewing on the question of the school's mascot. And as part of that process, I offered to kind of do some background research and reach out to some other school districts that have dealt with this issue as well. So let's see, do you want to hear what the information that I found out?
Yeah, because it'd be really cool because we're going to discuss it afterwards. We were thinking if all of us agree, we might release a statement saying the youth council would approve of a newly formed mascot. So we just want to hear all sides to the story so we can make a sound judgment.
Yeah. Well, so in terms of what I found, there's, a bunch of school districts that have successfully changed their mascot or team name or both. And there are schools that have not been able to do that, where there's been some push from some segment of people in town, but the change never got made. So I reached out and tried to talk to folks from school districts where they were able to change their mascot, who formerly had some kind of Native American mascot and were able to change it. And I actually only ended up having an in-depth conversation with one person. The other people didn't call me back, but I talked to the head of the school committee for a school district in Western Mass that's a bunch of towns. It's a more rural area, so several towns come together and have a joint school district. So I talked to them. It's the Mohawk Trails Regional School District, and they were able to successfully change. They also had an Indian head mascot and were able to change it. And she said that for her school district, the change started with the students. Some students brought up a concern to the, I think, superintendent. The superintendent kind of acknowledged that concern, but put it over to the school committee and was saying, this is ultimately a school committee decision to make. So the school committee formulated a process, and the process involved hearing from experts. They had some people come and speak to them about the research. There's research out there about the negative impact that Native mascots have on Native students. They invited some local Native folks to come and speak to them. So they had a series of, kind of informing themselves about the issues. Then they had a series of open hearings for people, various stakeholders, to come and speak their mind about their feelings on the subject. Apparently those open hearings were extremely painful and problematic in a lot of ways. But she said that for them, what was ultimately really helpful was it was a school committee decision to make. And so she said it was important to go through the process of hearing all perspectives, but to always stay centered on the fact that it was the school committee's decision to make. It wasn't going to come to a referendum to the town. It wasn't the town administrator's decision to make, things like that. So they were always very transparent and very clear about what the decision-making process was and who held the decision ultimately. And then the school committee voted, and in their case, they were fairly united about getting rid of the native mascot, and so they did that, and it was successful in the end. So that was the feedback she gave me, was just for there to be a lot of clarity and transparency about what the process is going to be and who ultimately holds the decision. Because in contrast, a neighboring school district, Turner's Falls, also in Western Massachusetts, they did eventually get rid, I believe they got rid of their native mascot and team name, but their process was incredibly painful because it went to a referendum to the town. It actually was multiple towns, because it's also a combined school district for multiple towns. So that was really confusing and difficult because ultimately the referendums, again, didn't hold any weight. They only were kind of suggestions. There was a lot of harm that was done. I think in both. I think in almost any instance where this debate is taking place, there's a lot of harm that is done to Native people in the process, which I think is important to be mindful of. Often I think Native folks are called upon to defend their position on this, or to convince white people or non-Native people, or to put their neck on the line in order to sort of either initiate change or move the change along, where then when Native folks come out to meetings like that, to those public hearings, and are trying to state their position, it was a bit of a dumpster fire, I think, in terms of the retaliation that they faced and the things that were said to them and about them. So I think that's an important piece to be mindful of. Anyway, so that is some things that I learned about how other school districts have gone through the process. And from my understanding, I don't know if you've talked to the town administrator or the town council about this, but it sounds to me like Steve Mayo also takes the position, he's it's not a town council decision to make, it's a school committee decision to make. So I think it's helpful for there to be unity in the town about that, what that decision-making process is. And the last thing I'll say is that the Human Rights Commission, we are interested as a body and as individuals in having the mascot change in Wakefield. Again, it's not our decision to make, but we are interested in being supportive and being, using whatever sway we have and things like that to help move the process along. And I do think that to the extent that that there's a groundswell of support from students around changing it, I think that will be a game changer. I think that will be, I think that would just be a really important part of the process. So I'm excited that you all are taking up this question.
Yeah, so, totally. So I just have a question for you. I think it would be really cool if you could, if anyone had a question, they could ask you. Would that be okay with you?
Yeah, please.
Okay, awesome. So my question, so would you say that you're talking about town unity and that all of these town committees should be kind of united, saying this is ultimately a school committee decision? Would you think that it would be helpful to say that as young people, as those people who go to these schools, that we believe that it would be best to change the logo, or would that harm the way we're trying to do it? That's not the right way to say it, but do you get the point?
Yeah, I don't think that I see a downside. I think it would only help. I think it would only provide strength and merit to the argument that the logo should be changed.
So if anyone has a question for Benny, you can put your hand raise up, or you can just honestly start talking. Anyone have a question? No questions?
Another thing that just occurred to me is I don't know necessarily where this fits in the kind of landscape of what this whole process looks like, but Maria Muti, who's the chair of the Human Rights Commission, she was mentioning to me that sometime not too long ago, I think it was last year maybe, an alum from Wakefield High started an online petition, like on, I think, change.org or whatever, to saying like Wakefield alums support changing this logo, because in a lot of school districts, the alums are a significant source of resistance. And to kind of counteract that narrative, this person started a change.org petition saying, like, there are alums that support changing the logo. And I think that's also a really helpful, like, arena for support to come from. Yeah, I'll just say that.
Cool, awesome. Thank you very much. Anyone have any questions? Or we can move into our discussion. Maggie, you have a question?
Didn't we write down questions from last week?
We did write a question. Let me
Or
pull
not
up-
last meeting?
Yeah, let me pull up that thing
Okay.
right now. Sorry. I also totally forgot about that. Hold on. Okay. Youth Council mascot questions. Okay. Okay, so we were thinking about, we were wondering about also the culture in Wakefield in general around the mascot, and how do you think we can be useful to help change the culture and like educate people about the harm that colonizers have done to Native people? Because I know we as a group, we really care about making sure everyone feels comfortable in our schools, because it's really important that the learning environment in the Wakefield public school system is nurturing for education. So we were just wondering how we as a body can help change the kind of culture and toxicity around like colonizers and stuff.
Well, I don't think I have a golden answer to that question, but one thought that comes up for me is, I wonder, it's like there's two prongs almost. There's doing change work within the school, and there's doing change work in the broader town. And maybe one question to consider is like, which one is the bigger priority, or what's the interplay? Like, how do you balance those two pieces of the puzzle? Because I think in terms of the atmosphere within the school itself, beyond just the mascot, like there's other issues, right? Beyond just the mascot, there's curriculum issues, there's whatever else, bullying issues, and just different ways that racism plays out. So within the context of the schools, I think there would be a different strategy taking place there than in the context of the town, which perhaps would be more geared towards the mascot question of like how to gain town support or how to educate people or whatever, whatever it is. So I guess I'm a social worker, so I'm going to do my social worker thing, which is answer your question with a question. And say, like, maybe ask yourselves, what is the goal? And, like, what are the most impactful actions that can achieve that goal? So if the goal is about changing the mascot, maybe that's one set of strategies. If the goal is about curriculum, maybe that's a different, you know what I mean? It would kind of depend on which direction you want to put where you want to put your chips,
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I don't know if anyone else wants to talk about that, but I do have an opinion. But I think I think the mascot question is important, but like in entire like teaching of American history in general, I think there's a whole different like kind of vibe around. Not the right word, but like we teach kids that like these white people came from Europe and like this created a country, but really they murdered millions of people. So I think it would be really helpful, I think, as a starting point to like teach kids about it and teach our students that like we have a country, yes, but it is based off the murder of millions of people, and then like kind of build off that. And I think that would also help build support. Personally, I think that would be able to build support because we're teaching kids, oh yeah, this is wrong. Then we should probably do something to make sure we right this wrong, I think.
Yeah, I will say also that this is just reminding me when I talked to the chair of the school committee from Mohawk Trails Regional. So one of the big contentious things that happened in their process was there was this huge mural in their gym of like an Indian, and so I don't know what else was in this mural, but anyway, the Indian was like the focus point, a Native American person. And the school had already begun doing more in terms of like talking about Native American history. They were to some extent, I think, using the mural as a tool to say like, what does this mural say to us? Or like, also it was a Plains Indian person in the mural, which is confusing because like that has nothing to do with the regional like Native history of this part of the country. You know, it was like using this as a teaching tool. And it sounds to me from what you described, like over time, as more of those discussions were happening in classrooms, more and more support was coming from the student body and from the teachers as well to you know, push for this change, because it was a conversation that people were already having, and people already had sort of the you know, the frameworks for like how to think about it and what right action might look like.
Does anyone have any thoughts about that?
I would just kind of concur with Benny. I think that's a great starting point, and even, you know, because it's hard to say, oh, we recommend changing this before that education starts. So I think that could be, you know, a good, you know, one of our good first action steps, or your first action steps.
Yeah, I think our school committee we can talk about this later during our liaison updates, but if our school committee people want to talk about that. And we also had another question. From your experience with the other towns, was there like a large cost to changing the mascot? 'Cause I know cost and money is a really big like issue.
Yeah.
We don't want to like put more strain on the town's budget. So like,
yeah, I think that it's variable. So it kind of depends on, a lot of what it depends on is what has to be replaced. Like how many jerseys have to be replaced, and helmets, and does the field have to be turfed, and does the gym have to be resurfaced? Like where does the symbol appear? And like in Mohawk Regional, she was saying that over the years, like through attrition and kind of like silent changes that were taking place, most of the jerseys had already been replaced. And as they were getting replaced, they were not using the Indian head logo. And so, and their gym, the basketball court had already been resurfaced, and they took away the Indian head logo. And so it just happens that where they were in the process, there wasn't a ton of expense. They had to sandblast there's a, similar to Wakefield, I think, they had like a stone thing outside the school that I think had the Indian head on it, and they sandblasted it. So there was like some areas that there was remaining expense, and they had to paint over this mural. Although I think that basically just whatever, like some gallons of white paint costs, it can't be that much. So they had low expense, but there's other school districts where that's not the case. Maybe they just bought a bunch of new jerseys. Like the band, do the drums all have the symbol on it? Like there's all these other things. So it kind of really depends from school district to school district. It sounds like to me in Wakefield, you all, I think, would probably know better. Some jerseys have the Indian head, some don't. You know, it's like some of that attrition has already taken place, but I'm sure there's more that would have to be replaced. And one thing that I'll say is that I think there is power in pointing out, if people say, well, you know, this will put additional strain on the school budget, there's power in pointing out, like, okay, so where is the money going? I don't know, I'm not gonna like make a bunch of political statements about that, but you know, what is the price tag that you put on the emotional and spiritual health of your student body? So
Very true. So does anyone have any other thoughts? 'Cause I feel like I'm just talking a lot.
I'm sorry, I was just wondering, I don't know if we mentioned this officially earlier, but is there a definitive plan to change just the symbol, or to change both the symbol and the symbol and the name as well?
is that a question for me?
Yeah, I would say so.
I don't really think that I have an answer to that. I don't think that there's an official like plan in place, you know, at all. Like there's no proposal that's been made, there's no whatever. The sense that I get from talking to folks is that there's more what's the word, like more support for changing the logo, and changing the Warriors name like doesn't seem to come up as much for people. And it's common, there's a lot of school districts, especially school districts where Warrior is the team name. Many of them have kept the name Warrior and gotten rid of the Indian head or whatever the like Native American symbology is. There's other, like, it's a different story if your team name is either more explicitly derogatory or more explicitly like Native American. But
I know Winchester is going through this with the Sachems right now.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so if your
Yeah.
name is Sachem or if your name is whatever, you know, Tewksbury has gone through this process repeatedly with no success to change the Redmond name, and it hasn't happened. So, you know, it depends. So, but most school districts in the research that I did kept Warrior's name, got rid of the logo. And it sounds like that's what people are talking about in Wakefield.
Yeah, I think we were talking about, we say like the warrior name, it doesn't seem too bad, but like if we were going to change something, we would heavily want like the logo if we were to vote on that. But yeah, I know my friend goes to school in North Quincy, and they changed their really racist mascot this year. So so I know a bunch of towns are going through this right now. So does anyone else have any questions or anything else?
I have a quick question. What would the process be in replacing the mascot? Like, what would the steps be to take in order to get to the finish line?
Yeah. You know, that's interesting. I have looked much less at that question. My question always ends with like, once the decision got made, like, was it yes, was it no? But that's a great question because there's often then a design process, which could take many different forms. You know, there could be a participatory design process where different people submit. There could be some kind of reparations-based design process where like those most affected get to, you know, be most involved in what the new design is. Like there's different, I think that the design process could be much more like flexible than the decision-making process probably. But I don't have a lot of insight about that.
Yeah, I think what we're getting from this is that this will be like a long process, but I think it would be really helpful to like show the youth support, young people support, which is what I'm gathering. But what we were talking about earlier, there's a lot of different pathways we can go on. So if we like, oh, Maggie has a question actually. Before we move on, Maggie, you want to go?
So I know, because I've been to the T-Stop recently, but so I've seen all the Wakefield stuff that they have with the logo already on it. Excuse me, on it. So what would they do with all of that?
Yeah, this is another question actually. Well, so first, I don't know the answer to that because I don't know. But another issue is what sway does the town have with private businesses, right? Like if a private business is going to pay a printing company to make t-shirts with an Indian head logo, can the town do anything about that? I don't know the answer to that question at all. That perhaps would be a question for Tom Mullen, who's the town lawyer. Could be interesting to get his perspective because it's also not uncommon. It's happened. I don't know if it was intentional or like just an oversight or what, but when Melrose changed the Dream, what's that thing called? Dreamweaver? They had a Dreamweaver logo that they took away from their from the like sports logo a couple years ago. You would frequently still see like lawn signs that had the Dreamweaver logo, and it's like, I thought you guys got rid of that logo. What happened is some maverick just like lawn signs because they like the old logo. So I don't know, like who I don't know, like how do you stop that from happening? I don't know.
Yeah, I honestly didn't think about that, but like I don't think town has jurisdiction over private businesses, but that is a good point. But if we changed it, it would just be them losing their money because no one would be buying that. So it wouldn't really be the town's problem necessarily.
Maybe, although people, I think there could also be backlash, like people buying it because for people who do like the Native American logo, wanting to like keep that, you know. So there perhaps could be some outreach or education to be done with the business owners at the T-Stop or at other places that sell merchandise like that to, you know, to educate them about the harm and why this change is coming. And because ultimately they probably are going to make decisions that are going to make them the most money, but they could also make like ethically based decisions even if it loses them money. And so there could be organizing to be done around that.
Awesome. Does anyone have any more questions for Benny? Because I don't want to waste her time. She's been here for a half hour.
You're not wasting my time. I'm into it.
Are there any questions for her? Awesome. But thank you for coming.
Wait, Anthony, I think has.
Oh, Anthony, sorry. Anthony, I didn't even see you. My bad.
All good, no worries. I'm sorry, I just have one question kind of related to that education aspect. So how would, I guess this is sort of specific, but how would you sort of respond to someone who may say that the symbol is kind of representation of the bravery and courage of the Native American, and that's why they take so much pride and have so much, have a liking to the symbol, sort of, like how would someone possibly respond to that?
Yeah, there is like so much that I could say about this. So there's like many directions that I think you could go in helping somebody to like see perhaps the problematic aspects of that narrative. So I think like some things to consider could be learning. I think it would be helpful actually for either you all or whoever it is to learn what the specific history was around how we wound up with this logo, because there's I think it would just be helpful to be able to say like, in this year so and so designed this logo, and like for example in Melrose, so they're called the Red Raiders, and there was this story about how, oh, it doesn't have to do with Native Americans, it is honoring this, I don't know what you call it, I don't know like military terms, but some like battalion or something in World War I or some kind of thing, some like fighter pilots, and their like regiment was called the Red Raiders, and that's why, and there was like a bunch of Melrose pilots in this regiment or whatever, and that's why they're called the Red Raiders. But if you actually look at the timeline of when the town adopted the name Red Raiders, it does not line up with that. So they started calling their teams Red Raiders before that, like whatever group of fighter pilots existed. So it can be helpful, I think, to be able to really bring some fact-based knowledge about the history. I think that could potentially help. That doesn't really address the thing you said about like bravery and like wanting to what's the word, kind of uphold those virtues. But I think it's relevant in terms of like educating people about harmful narratives. And I think where it gets complicated is that I think in order to really get into the question of why is it problematic to be saying, oh, but I'm trying to, you know, I'm talking about these really positive traits that Native Americans have, bravery and, you know, the warrior spirit, and like those are positive things. It gets complicated because to disassemble that narrative, you have to have like a pretty nuanced understanding of like white supremacy and cultural appropriation and like just many things. Like, who gets to define what someone else's culture is? Who gets to decide? Is it white people that get to decide what is like emblematic of Native Americans, and that we get to like sort of create the story? So there's like, anyway, I think the problem or the challenge that you have to overcome is that it's nuanced and complicated, and you have to kind of deconstruct people's internalized stuff, which is not easy to do. So in a lot of ways, I think in terms of addressing those kinds of attitudes, I recommend playing the long game. Like, I think that you do have to confront those attitudes. And I also think that in confronting them, you have to be okay with not succeeding, because it takes a really long time to like uproot some of the deeper stuff that is hidden behind those attitudes. So be strategic and play the long game. Some very general pieces of advice, but I'd be excited to talk more if anybody wants to really talk about like, how do you change people's racist attitudes? Because that's like, that could be like a whole lifelong learning process.
Yeah. Thank you very much for coming. Do you have any other questions? Okay, awesome. Thank you, Benny, for coming. Really appreciate you giving us
Thanks
your
for having
insight.
me.
So, thank you.
And feel free to
Thanks,
reach out
Benny.
if you have other questions or want to talk more. Feel free to reach out. You have my email, Jack.
Yes, I will send everyone her email if you guys want to reach out to her.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for coming.
Bye, everybody.
Hi.
Bye.
Awesome. So next on our agenda, I had a discussion about what we just heard and like what our thoughts are. So does anyone else want to lead off? Because we were already kind of talking about it with her. So it was like, anyone just like want to continue on with that conversation?
One thought that I had, I think I want to be careful how I phrase this. I think it's really important that if we are talking to an individual or a group of people about this, I think it's important to validate what they're feeling and that feeling is real. But at the same time, also find the balance of trying to educate them and present the other side. But I think it's very important that we are respectful when we do it and make sure that they know that they are being heard, even if we don't agree with their opinion.
Totally. Yeah, I think this decision only made if we all agree, because this is a very toxic like kind of issue. Racism is very hard to deal with, and like in putting yourself out there as a person, as a group, is really hard, especially for the public to criticize you for whatever decision you make. So we will only do this if we all agree, because as a group we need to be able to defend each other. I think that's really important too. But yeah, I think what she's talking about is really cool and interesting, and just battling systematic racism is really hard. And I think as a group, it'd be really cool if we are able to kind of lead that path as young people, because this is our school. This is your school. I don't go there, but it's in general our school. It's our town, and I think if we decide to do this, it'd be really cool, and it shows that we are, as young people, have like power in general, which is cool. Take back the power. So does anyone have any other parts? Maggie?
I definitely agree with Lauren about making sure that people understand that they're heard, even if we definitely don't agree with them. Like, even if we don't agree with them or someone we know doesn't agree with them, like, we should definitely make sure they're heard, because people can get very touchy when they aren't heard. And I definitely agree with what Benny said about how I think the name is okay, because that can go for like anything. But I definitely think we should change just like the logo itself. But I think the name would be fine, because it's not like specific to any race in general. So I think the name would be fine.
Awesome. Does anyone have any other opinions or things they want to talk about? Alyssa?
If you want, I can talk about the results from like the polls and the questions that I put on the Instagram.
Yeah, totally.
I think that would be great,
Yeah.
Alyssa, because part of, we talk about this all the time. You're, as youth council members, you're representing the rest of the youth of Wakefield. So although you might have your opinions on something, it's really kind of your thinking about your engaging your constituent, but your peers, and really,
Yeah.
so Alyssa can share.
If it's all right, can I share my screen?
Yeah, I think you should be able to.
Okay.
I also want to say, Sunrise Wakefield had a petition going around about this, and they had over 1,000 signatures to change the mascot. So I would think using that as well as like sort of our evidence to like say that the people are behind this is.
What's Sunrise Wakefield?
So Sunrise Movement, it's a climate change, like racial justice movement,
Oh, okay.
and they have a hub in Wakefield.
Okay.
So them as a group made a petition.
Jack, did you give Alyssa permission to
Yes,
share?
she should be. Yeah, she should.
Yeah,
be able
my
to.
computer's just being weird. I think we're getting there.
While Alyssa's doing that, I also just want to emphasize that this is like, although it is being recorded, it is a safe space for people to voice their opinion. So if you don't agree with it, don't be afraid to speak up. I mean, no matter what we think, we have to be respectful of each other's opinions. But I just want everyone to feel comfortable with what their opinion is, and that it's valid. So
Can y'all see that now?
Yep.
Okay. All right, there we go. Sorry, that took a little bit. But this is just, so on one story question, I asked what people's opinion on the Warrior logo is, and we only got like 2 responses, but that's okay. It's fine. And so obviously you can see one person said, it doesn't make me upset, but I can see how it offends some people. And somebody else said, I firmly believe that we should change it. And the exclamation points were there. I just copied and pasted what there was. And then the next day I did a combined one, which it would just allow people to vote if they thought it should be changed or not, and gave them an opportunity to say why they feel that way. So it was a 50-50 split, which I thought was pretty interesting. And there were like students that voted both ways, and there were a couple adults, I think, that voted. And you can just see the responses. So most people who gave more information said that they would support changing it if people thought it was offensive. And one person did say it perpetuates stereotypes and lets kids think they can wear headdresses, which is something that I think is important to acknowledge and address, because I do believe that happens at the Red Sea in football games. So that's about it. It was pretty short, but I just figured I would share that with you guys so we know vaguely what some other people wanted to share with us on what they thought.
Alyssa, is there any way you can go back to that and see like if
Yeah.
it was just like if the older people only voted no, or like did you like know like
Oh, who like voted?
Yeah, because I think as
Yeah.
like the youth council, we should be more focusing more on like what the young people feel like and
It
not.
was, yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
it-
No, I just want to make sure that like
It
we.
was mostly youth that voted. I can
Mhm.
check right now.
It's not that old people's opinions aren't valid. They are
Yeah.
perfectly valid, but for our consideration, we should pretty much, I think, consider young people's opinions on this.
Everybody who voted
Absolutely,
yes.
no offense taken. Yeah.
Everybody who voted yes, either is at the high school right now or like recently graduated. And we had, I think one of the people who voted no was an adult. So it was mostly youth who responded.
Okay, cool. Nice.
Okay.
And all of
So
the
that's-
question responses with more
And then-
information were youth as well. Sorry.
Okay.
No, I was just gonna say, I think you guys need to move on in your agenda, but just something that Benny was saying, that education and that kind of needs to come first before, and getting an understanding of the people that say no, why they, getting an understanding of both sides of the opinion to really, I do a lot of kind of work around different issues, around having to kind of educate people and maybe change their opinions on things. And even though our gut reaction might be something, we need to kind of slow down and understand, why people think one way or why people think another, and what kind of going back to what Yana first educated all of you on at the last meeting. So maybe figuring out what your next 2 or 3 action steps are going forward.
Yeah, so we can really talk about that when the social media people talk during the updates. Yeah, we'll do that so we can move on. So if Anthony, you want to talk about the outreach subcommittee?
Yeah, of course. So I'll just bring that. We're just going to talk briefly about it again. So I'll bring that to Alyssa to start off.
Okay.
So basically, we had a meeting and we decided that we are going to use Instagram, Facebook, and quarterly newsletter is what we decided. So Lauren is running the Facebook, I'm running the Instagram, and Anthony is running like the operations of the newsletter, all that kind of thing. So basically what we're going to do is just let people know what we're doing, try and connect with them, see what they want us to address, see what they're concerned about in the town. And when we do choose something to focus on, such as the Warrior logo, we can do like what I kind of did the past couple of days and what Lauren did as well, was just giving people an opportunity to tell us what they think, whether it's like a simple poll like yes, no, do you think it should be changed? Or if it's, you can just tell us what you think and why you think that way in a form of more of a question. We're also making sure people know that they can email us. We have a survey that's linked to both of the accounts. So we are, right now, our aim is just to engage the youth of Wakefield and find out what they want us to address. I don't know if you want to take it from here, Anthony.
Have we got any answers on that survey?
No, I checked, not yet.
Okay. Anthony, you going?
I can just go off on what Alyssa said. And so, as she said, I am running the newsletter, and we are thinking of having sort of like I said, a quarterly newsletter, possibly, and it would go to both the middle school and the high school. It'd be sent out there. So I would love to have possibly a middle school member of the youth council join me in working on the newsletter, so they can sort of be the person for communicating between the middle school and the youth council, because obviously I'm at the high school, so I can communicate with the high school, but I would love to have someone from the middle school to be that source of communication. That'd be really great.
Does any middle school member want to take Anthony's offer up?
You have time to think about it. Don't worry.
Yeah, you can think about it. You can email him. Okay.
I might reach out to some of the middle school members who said that they like English and like writing, because that will be kind of part of it, is figuring out how to convey some of these things to your peers. But
Yes.
the principals of both middle school and high school will be willing to send these newsletters out to the student body.
Awesome. Yeah. People in the high school, middle school. So is there any way that we can like inform people that we exist? 'Cause I know we posted in like the newspaper, but I don't read the newspaper. I don't think any young people read newspapers, or they do. They're really rare. So do you know, like, besides like social media and sharing like our profiles and stuff, is there any way we can like during the school day, like do things? Does anyone know?
The announcements, I would say, is probably just a really good way for both middle school and high school to receive our info from us in a brief, concise manner on a daily basis.
That would be cool. Like if we like submit announcements like we're having a meeting this Wednesday at 4 p.m. Come, or like this is what we talked about in the meeting yesterday. Or,
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
yeah, I think that would be really cool. And like everyone's forced to listen to those, so they'll have to hear us. Was someone saying something?
I think that was Jenna.
Yeah, I just said I agree because I think a lot of people pay attention to the announcements.
Awesome. That's cool.
Other way you get information at the Galvin? Like, do you know
Maggie?
boards or?
Sometimes they put up like little like just like posters basically up on like the walls for like, I know that's how I found out about one of the clubs I'm in. I don't remember specifically, but like, yeah, just like posters on the walls.
Yeah, like flyers. We could put up flyers about like things we're doing, what's happening with the youth council, just to inform people, give them.
Summer?
I know if someone here has ties to the youth action team, we could get our club on the news flash in the bathrooms.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yep, I can get that. If you guys have blurbs that you want to put in the news flush in the bathroom buzz, we can pass that along to the youth action team. They're always looking for content. So I think it'd be great for their first editions when school starts up to do a feature on the youth council.
Yeah, definitely. That's really cool.
So I'll put the people that are in charge of those in charge with our communication folks.
Yes. Awesome. Anything else about outreach? Not? Okay, so now we're just gonna go to like updating about liaison positions in general. So then we have any updates?
Since our last meeting, has anyone either attended a meeting or talked to their liaison person?
I actually have on August 11th, I had a one-on-one meeting with the Deputy Chief of Police in Wakefield.
What went on?
Oh, I posed 3 major questions to him based on current things that are happening in today's society, and he gave me insight on what the police department is doing to handle those problems and how they deal with things.
I met with Judy Luciano from the senior center. We talked about events they were hosting. They hosted a coffee get together by the park not too long ago. They're thinking about having another one. They might be they take volunteers. I think they did volunteers from the youth action team before, and I don't know if they're taking more volunteers this next time, but they discuss like current events and with the senior citizens so they can all get together. They're also working on battling ageism in Wakefield.
Awesome. Thank you, Amelia.
Do you feel like there's any way that the youth council could help the senior center with any of the issues that they're working on, like battling ageism or anything like that? Or
Yeah, I asked Judy how we could help, and she said they have events because the senior citizens have definitely missed like the events that they usually have at the senior center. So they've been like having events done by the park, so like barbecues and coffee things and stuff like that. And so she said that she might need like middle school or high school volunteers.
Yeah. Also, great opportunity to get some service hours, guys. So you guys need service hours for any test something. Awesome. Thank you, Amelia. So, anyone else have any updates, or else we can move on to talking about our 3 action items. Yeah, Lauren.
Jenna and I met with, well, we didn't actually really meet with them, but we attended a Zoom meeting for the school committee. And we didn't really have a long opportunity to talk back and forth with them just because it was the meeting that they were passing or not passing the hybrid plan. So it was kind of a high pressure meeting. But Jenna and I introduced ourselves and kind of talked about what the youth council does and the goals that we have for working with them. And so we'll definitely be in touch in regards to the school reopening and what they think we should do about the mascot. But obviously they have their hands pretty full right now. But we will find the time to do that and connect with them.
Jenna, do you have any updates?
Yeah, so we attended their meeting and we actually made a presentation. I don't know if you want us to share it now, but just basically what each age group is doing for the reopening of school.
That's awesome. Totally. Yeah, I think next week next meeting, I guess we should do. I want to do like in-depth ones or we find a new speaker or whatever. But going off of Lauren, I really want to talk. So like ending like our mascot discussion in general until the next meeting. What Catherine was saying, we should create like some action items, what we want to happen. So I think first off, I think we should put a lot more focus on outreaching to young people in the community, because our meeting will next probably before the first day of school. When's your first day of school? Same one now.
The 17th is
believe-
the first day, and then
Okay.
we go back remotely until the 29th.
Okay, so our next meeting would be the 9th. So it's the week before school starts. So I think talking about outreach and trying to outreach to young people about what they feel about the mascot would be high priority. Definitely agree. Yeah, so I think if the outreach people want to like have like a subcommittee meeting about
Jack,
Yeah.
one thing too is also kind of just thinking about that a lot of young people, like we said before, don't know that the youth council exists and everything. So that I think can be a priority as well. And
Yes.
you know, as far as I think just getting that general word out, there is a youth council and how to build, because if you're going to be using your Instagram to do polls like that or different things, how to get your followers up, I think really that engagement, you know, just think about that, how I think the mascot stuff we can be doing alongside.
Yeah.
But just thinking about how to really get the word out about the youth council, because unless their parents probably pointed it out to them and then from the newspaper article, I doubt many people saw that. And but there are strategies where you can get your Instagram followers up, things like
that. So Alyssa, I think what I've done with the organizations I've been a part of is we've gone through like our followers and followed everyone like from our town. Everyone's like sort of interested in groups. So like that's like a long process, you know, like a few hours. So if you
like I have the time, so I can definitely.
Yeah, so if you have a day where you like want to go through like mine, your, Lauren's, Anthony, like everyone's followers, like follow people from Wakefield.
Okay.
I think because they'll most likely follow us back or something. Okay. And then we can go through and follow them eventually. But let's keep our ratio up. But I think that would be helpful to like expand our kind of view. So I think that'd be cool for you. And so does anyone else have any things that they think we should do for next time, before next time we meet? Okay, none. Awesome. So
can I just ask a question?
Go ahead.
Who here has not made contact with their board liaison or attended a meeting or anything yet? Because that's what I'm here to help you. So Summer, you're in Vision Wakefield, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have to I'll reach out to Ed soon and find out when their next meeting is or something.
Okay, because I did the introductory email with you, correct? Okay, well, we know how to get a hold of Ed. So yeah, if you could follow up for an email with him, that would be great. Anyone else not have
Catherine, I have not. I don't think I ever got an email back when you did the intro email. So I can reach out to them. I can email them soon.
You emailed the chair of the finance committee?
You sent an intro email, but
Okay.
I don't think anything ever came back. But I can email them soon about that.
Okay, let me also ask my neighbor who's on the finance committee,
Okay.
Mr. Lehman, to see if he can just help us get in contact with him.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
And mention it to Sherry as well. Okay.
Awesome. Yes.
So,
Okay.
all right.
Anyone else have any issues? Awesome. So next meeting date wise, I think the next one would be September 9th at 4 p.m. Does that work for everyone? That's the week before school starts. No one has like any camps they have to go to, like band camp or whatever. Nope. Okay, awesome. So September 9th at 4 p.m. Mark calendars. We'll send out a Zoom invite eventually. September 9th. Awesome.
And then the subcommittee meeting for communication and outreach, when is that next meeting, Alyssa?
It's September 10th, so the day after.
Okay.
Okay. Awesome. And then, does anyone have any other business that we need to talk about before we end the meeting?
So just to refresh Jack and everyone, the next steps are the liaisons that haven't been in touch are going to make sure that they connect. And if there's any follow-up that anyone wants to do, or if you haven't heard back, please message me as far as attending committee meetings. And then it sounds like Alyssa's going to work on driving that Instagram following, the number of followers up. And as far as the mascot piece, I don't know if what you all want to do. I know there's education that you want to do, but I thought it would. Yana did an initial verbal presentation to us, but I think it might be helpful to kind of get a presentation with some examples, kind of what Benny was talking about and some of the things that you actually mentioned in our last meeting, to kind of put it all together in one place, and that might, that might be a nice opportunity to
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so like our next speaker thing, if anyone wants to do that, like create a presentation of like all we talked about and like articles and stuff. Does anyone want to do that? Or I can do that if no one wants to. Okay, so I can do that for us.
Yana, how do you feel about that?
Oh, Yana, oh, yeah. Yana actually did the first presentation.
So like create a presentation of what like we've been talking about from the last meeting. Yeah, I can definitely.
And so examples of like how it harms people or how it's good or whatever. You can find stuff. I know there's like a billion articles about it. You just Google it. So.
Okay, so just on like the Warrior logo. Okay.
Yeah.
And changing mascots, and then also start to get some information from Alyssa too on what youth are thinking about it, because what you all are really looking at is the youth thing. So why some youth are really passionate about changing it and why some aren't. And we can work with you. I can work with you on that.
Yes. Also, Yana, I emailed you, but the email bounced back. I emailed your like student email. Is there any way you could just like email me like your correct email?
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. Thank you. I just want to make sure you get all my update emails.
Okay.
Awesome. Does anyone else have any other things that you need to talk about? If not, to hear a motion to end the meeting and meet again on September 9th. Motion.
I motion.
Maggie, do I hear a second?
A second.
Also, all those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Perfect, passed unanimously. Thank you guys for coming. We appreciate it all. We'll see you back here on September 9th, and check email because I'll probably be emailing you guys up soon. Awesome. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Have a nice day.